Stadium. This is a very special night for Darwin, special night for the Northern Territory, and an incredibly important night for football. The most popular sport in Australia by a long way. We're back. Football is back, and I've got John Tambouris with me. John, we've been gloating all night about being the first back, but this will be the first game of men's Premier League, the first game of men's football anywhere in Australia, anywhere in the world with a crowd. What are you expecting from these two teams? They're well matched. There's been a lot of recruitment on the off-season. What do you see?
Well, both have heavily recruited, as we spoke about before, Bruce. Again, looking at both teams, you got this, a lot of experience in the Hellenic team this year. You're looking at Mindil have got a lot of youth players, so it'll be very, very interesting to see how they go. Again, I favour youth, so in terms of getting the young boys to play this year, the two centre-backs are, I think they're 18 and 19 years of age. So speaking of Daniel, he's going to be blood and youth, and obviously speaking to John Francis from Hellenic, they've got a lot of experienced players, so it'll be, I'm actually looking forward to this one tonight.
Yeah, good. And you're our technical director here in the Northern Territory. This is Football Northern Territory's technical director. You're doing a lot of work in that place, and these are where the kids end up. So you'll be looking out to see any of those earlier students of yours,
exactly,
on the bigger stage.
Exactly. So looking at their youth, the youth policy as well at Mindil, and again, I think I've got a couple of young boys coming through too. So again, it's about giving these kids the opportunity to play, and we're better than in these great facilities that we've got behind us. So looking forward to seeing a really good game tonight. And
look, we're in stage 3 here in Darwin of the COVID-19 progression or roadmap to the new normal. We had a beautiful sunset. It was just extraordinary. Boundless possible, that's always here. Beautiful colours. There's nothing like the Northern Territory in any way, shape or form. And also we had a great full moon here tonight as well, which is fabulous. We want to thank everybody at Football Federation Australia for helping us out to get onto the digital platforms for them. I want to thank Robbie Middleby and Sarah Walsh and all the guys there that are giving us this opportunity. And we also want to thank Perform, who have done an arrangement with John, so they'll be broadcasting every one of the Men's Premier League games this year, which will be a first for the Territory. And it's just so fitting that it's the first game back anywhere in the country. It's during this extraordinary time of COVID-19, and we're making our way out of it. And we're only here and the safest place in the country simply because we all did the right thing over the last 12 weeks. I know quickly before we head back to a really exciting thing, we've got the voice of football, an extraordinary commentator in Simon, who's decided to give it a go tonight with us. He's lounging back in his lounge room in Sydney, but no, he'll be ready to go very shortly. What did you do in the 12 weeks you had off, mate?
I actually caught up with a lot of mum and dad. I actually went back to the family home, spent a lot of time with mum and dad, and again, I actually put the runners back on and did a bit of running. Obviously haven't ran since I retired, so got out of the gym, hit the paddock obviously running, but yeah, now the gyms are back open, back in the gym, and I think I've lost my runners. I don't know where my runners have gone. So lucky COVID's over, and but look, it was always good going back and seeing mum and dad and doing the things that I used to do back in the day. So it was a trip down memory lane.
Yeah, it would have been exciting for you. I don't know about mum and dad, all the broken lights in the windows and that tap, 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 tap all night.
Exactly.
With you with the football at your feet. Welcome back, Mum. That's John Tambouris. He'll be going into the booth in a moment to work with Simon Hill, who's obviously the Fox Sports broadcaster and, as I said, the voice of football here, and he's been doing some work in Asia as well. So we're so happy to have Simon on board. Look, we'll say goodbye to you from the sideline here, and we'll throw you to the studio. Sit back, enjoy the very first game of football anywhere in the country. And yeah, we're gloating. First time, Darwin, NT. It's our time. Thank you.
As you should be gloating, Bruce. Very good evening to you. Simon Hill's my name. Football in Australia is back, and it is the Northern Territory leading the way as the FNT Premier League North Zone resumes tonight at the Darwin Football Stadium. And what a clash we have in store for you. 19 times champions, Hellenic AC, one of the real powerhouses of football in the top end. And they're up against last year's grand finalists, the Mindil Aces, the resumption of a rivalry that's really gathered a fair bit of momentum over the last 12 months. It is a real multicultural occasion as well, befitting the game of football in this country. On show tonight, you will see players from Greece, Nigeria, Nepal, Zimbabwe, East Timor, Malawi, Thailand, England, Scotland, Wales, Uganda, Malta, Estonia, Myanmar, Argentina, Brazil, and Japan. How about that? All of those players now calling Darwin home. and bringing their love of the world game to these shores. The players, of course, are the ones that matter, and here are the teams. Hellenic includes Sulav Maski, a junior international with Nepal, and Manchester-born Simon Bell in their attack. They were the club's joint top goal scorers last season with 15 each. Watch out as well for pacey winger Munya Ruparanganda, who hails from Zimbabwe and who also trained with the Joeys a few years back. An ex-Newcastle Jets midfielder, you might remember him, Jesse Pinto, a full international with East Timor and now a PT instructor in the Australian Navy. The Mindil Aces are missing their captain tonight, Zach Kirby. He's got an injury, so a lot of responsibility on the young shoulders of George Carpathios. He trialled with Schalke in Germany last year, also had a stint with Sydney Olympic in New South Wales. 44-year-old Japanese Taiki Kudo anchors the midfield. And up top, speedy winger Charles Eriku, a native of Uganda, will look to supply the muscular Tavian Ludvigsen, the Welshman whose cousin Kai has just signed up with Swansea City in the UK. So a real eclectic mix of players who've come from all over the world and, as I say, have brought their love of football with them to Australia. It's great to see them in action tonight. Players, of course, haven't been in action since early March. This is officially round 2. Hellenic actually defeated University Azuri. There they are in the blue by 2-1. 2 goals from Sulav Maski in their opening round win. And as for Mindil Aces, who are playing predominantly in the black jerseys with light green trim, they saw off Port Darwin by 4-3. Goals from Kirby, Eriku, Nick Concionis, who's on the bench tonight, and Kyriakos Timoteou. Of course,
Gentlemen, are you ready for some football? Men's Premier League round 2. Football action here live in Darwin. The Hellenic Athletic Club versus the Mindil Aces. Here we go! With this moment away, folks, give your team a cheer! Hellenic Athletic Club! Mindil Aces, the team live football here at Darwin Football Stadium.
Well, up live and running in this game in the North Zone Football Northern Territory Premier League. Apologies for the technical issues, but we appear to have them sorted out, and it is the Mindil Aces going down the left-hand side in that predominantly black kit with Kane McDowell, who is their captain tonight. Mindil Aces looking to go one better, of course, than last season when they lost the grand final to Casuarina. And they're building quite nicely here. This is Tavian Ludvigsson, the big Welshman, who's back playing for the first time in over a decade. And the attempted cross will spin out towards Tan U from Myanmar on the near side, but ball had already gone dead for a goal kick. Our referee tonight, incidentally, Albert Kraus, who's just moved to the NT. There is John Francis, the Englishman, coach of Hellenic, also spent some time in New Zealand. He's a big West Ham United fan as well, and told me this week that he's basically at the start of what he believes is a new 2-year project, really, to restore Hellenic back to their former glories. They had a poor year last year, finishing 5th out of 6 in the local competition, which is most unlike them, as you might imagine, for a team that's won 19 championships. They expect to be up there competing for silverware every single season. It's going to be Juno Gama who will launch the long throw. It's going to be a real test today, you fancy, for the 2 young centre-backs of the Mindil Aces. As mentioned, they're without Zach Kirby, their experienced captain, who did score in that round 1 win against Port Darwin all the way back in March. So 19-year-old Will Reeve and 16-year-old George Carpethios have the task of trying to marshal the muscular Simon Bell up front, who's a regular goal scorer in this competition. Here's the tricky Sulav Maski. Watch out for him. Maski again, the Nepalese under-22 international, and the goalkeeper's fumbled it, and Hellenic have the lead. A tap-in the end for Munya Ruparanganda. The initial shot from Sulav Maski was spilled by Phil Wilkes, the young Mindil Aces goalkeeper, and following up was Munya, and Hellenic draw first blood in the 5th minute. Well, what a perfect start for John Francis's team. And I know that Daniel McCormick, the coach of Mindil, was rather concerned about his goalkeeping stocks this year. Phil Wilkes, just 16 years of age, replacing the very experienced Bradley Stout, who also played the previous campaign with Hellenic, but he's returned with his job in the Australian Navy to Perth this year, so they're a little bit light on goalkeeping stocks. Same thing can be said for Hellenic as well, and maybe that inexperience just showing there in the early stages. So the goal for Munya Ruparanganda, the boy who was born in Zimbabwe and who also spent time training with the Joeys a couple of years ago, and a youngster of huge potential. And he's already on the score sheet. So what can the Mindil Aces do about that? They had a good record against Hellenic last year, beat them twice. The other game ended in a draw. And all that on the back of, in previous campaigns, 11 consecutive wins for Hellenic against the Aces. This is Kane McDowell. A lot of Mindil Aces midfield play will go through him. He is wearing the captain's armband tonight in the absence of Zach Kirby. But Hellenic have snaffled the ball back. And Maski will just settle things down. Just keep an eye on Sulav Maski. You might remember, those of you who watched the FFA Cup tie a couple of years ago between Hellenic and the Western Sydney Wanderers. Maski scored twice that night, including one that ultimately won FFA Cup goal of the season. Here he is on the ball, just rolling it back towards Dexter Newman, part of the Hellenic back four, and Juno Gama on the right. Will try and make progress, but has rather overhit his release down the right-hand side for Munya. 2 40-minute halves. We will have drinks breaks as well. Of course, the players only just back in training, and they've been limited as to what they can do in terms of contact work as well. So very much a feel your way back in sort of a situation for the players. But Hellenic have made a terrific start. And this is Jesse Pinto, formerly of the Newcastle Jets. Again, Sulav Maski making himself busy in that midfield area. The tall figure of Simon Bell. Munyar to try and sling it into the box. No appeal for hands there against Matthew Mifsud. Referee Kraus not interested, but Hellenic will get themselves the game's first corner. Look at the size of Simon Bell. Spent time with the Manchester City Academy when he was a youngster back in the UK. And he's going to take some watching. I'm not sure they've got shorts big enough to fit him. We'll get the thoughts of Johnny Tambouris after this corner. Former North Queensland Fury and New Zealand Knights and one or two other places besides during his long and illustrious playing career. One of the best players ever to come out of the top end of the country. But meantime, we're set for the corner. And the header on goal has gone through Phil Wilton. It is 2. It's Dan Bullman who climbed highest at the near post. And this is a dream start for Hellenic. They are 2 goals clear within the first 10 minutes, and Dan Bullman has added to Munyar's opener. Well, Mindil will be hugely disappointed, and the young goalkeeper too. He got a hand to it but could not keep it out. 2 pretty rudimentary goalkeeping mistakes. And Johnny Tambouris, Hellenic are looking pretty good at this early stage.
You know, they're up for it, and it's just up to Mindil now to hold them up and see what they can do about it.
John, in the build-up to this game, I know that John Francis said he thought his team were underdogs tonight. Was he bluffing?
I wouldn't say underdogs. Again, they've done some heavy recruiting this year in terms of players. So in terms of depth, I'd say they're probably the best team when it comes to depth. They've got a lot of good players that have played at a good standard as well. So whereas Daniel McCormack from Mindil Aces, they're looking at a lot of youth players this year, which is great to see. So as you mentioned before, the two centre backs are
Here's
quite
another
young,
chance.
so...
Sorry, John, just breaking away there because Simon Bell was fashioning a chance for himself on the left. Do continue, John. My apologies.
So basically, in terms of Mindil Aces, quite young with a lot of youth, and obviously with Hellenic this year, they've got a lot of senior players, players that have won premierships before. So they're going to be tough to beat this year.
One more question on Hellenic, John. What went wrong for them last year? 5th out of 6. That's not like them, is it?
It's not like them, and in terms of where they were last year, the year before they had a good run in the FFA Cup where they played against Adelaide United, the Western Sydney Wanderers here in Darwin, where they were unlucky to lose, to be honest. But I think that year, they new coach, new ways and so forth, and new players had come into the club as well. So they recruited quite heavily this year, and I think they're going to make up for last year, Simon.
Okay, this is Charles Eriku. He's one to keep an eye on, one of those youngsters. I know that Daniel McCormack rates him very, very highly indeed, and he is very, very quick down that left-hand side. Hellenic will be aware of that, of course. Mindil looking to build down the left. Here's Matt Mifsud, who's only just back with the club after suffering a broken ankle during the 7-a-side season. Hellenic just pretty comfortable in these early stages. 2 goals to the good. Munyar and Dan Bullman, the tall central defender from the UK, who's a big Liverpool fan. Rose like Virgil van Dijk there, didn't he, at the near post? You would have enjoyed watching that as a former centre-back, Johnny. You scored a couple of goals like that yourself, maybe?
Yeah, a couple of goals, but again, I didn't like the Liverpool sound. But anything else, if it was a United sound, I'd probably like it a little bit more, mate.
Well, we'll disagree on both counts then. Mild temperatures in Darwin for that part part of the world. Anyway, mid-20s, which makes it a little bit more comfortable for the players. A scrap on that far side involving Tavian Ludvigsen, who works as a limo driver during the day. Back through the experienced Taiki Kudo, 44 years young, which gives hope to many of us that you can still play at a decent level, even despite the advancing years. But tidied up by Will Reeve. But it's been a real baptism of fire for the young goalkeeper, John. Phil Wilkes, whose real name is Rafawik Chindam. He comes from southern Thailand, but maybe you can enlighten us as to why he goes by the name of Phil Wilkes.
Again, I only know him as Phil Wilkes, so that's the first I've heard of it, Simon. So he's again a good future prospect. I've worked with him in the development program as well. So he has played with the Northern Territory representative team. So bright future, and obviously playing men's Premier League, it's a different kettle of fish, you know that, and it'll be a good test for him tonight.
Sure will be. Charles Ericu wanted a free kick there, but Albert Kraus not interested, and Hellenic go long. Simon Bell, the target man. All power and pace, and he's threaded it through beautifully. Chance for 3. It's just too easy for Hellenic. It's the captain, Warren Barry, who steers it past Wilkes, and Hellenic are running away with this. Less than a quarter of an hour played, and they are 3 clear, and that was just all too easy.
Number 23, Warren Berry.
Well, the direct route, Johnny, paid off there. Get the ball up to the big man, Simon Bell. He holds it up and waits for the runners, and Warren Barry obliged.
Yeah, exactly. Again, in terms of the big man up front, he holds the ball up quite well. He's actually shed a couple of kilos since I last saw him, so he's moving quite freely. And obviously was a deep run, third man run through deep. Look for the through ball, and obviously great finish as well. So on his weaker side as well, which is a good finish.
Sure was. Warren Barry, the man from Corby in the English Southern Midlands, played semi-professional back in the UK. Adding to Hellenic's tally. And Mindil just looking a little bit stunned at the moment. Last year's grand finalists. They lost 3-1 to Casuarina, but had a couple of goals disallowed, as I understand, on that particular day. So maybe can consider themselves a little bit of unfortunate to not win their first championship. It would have been 35 years. Here's Ericu. Well, it's a shot on goal at least. I'm sure you attended that grand final last year, John. Were they unfortunate to lose it?
They were. Again, that was a game of 2 halves, really. I think the first half, Casuarina came out strong, and then Mindil took it to him in the second half. So they were a bit unlucky in terms of some calls that went through that game. But look, it's been a while since they've won a premiership, but they're at a rebuilding phase as well. Obviously, a lot of youth players coming through, so I can see in the near future them, either winning a title or being in grand finals more often. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's been a fairly long wait between drinks for the Mindil Aces. 1984, their last championship. Hellenic have won a fair few between then and now. And as things stand, they are looking good to go over the top of Casuarina and the Mindil Aces and back to the top of the league tonight. Might only be just for 24 hours. Another couple of games to come this weekend. The reigning champions Casuarina play Port Darwin tomorrow, and the Darwin Hearts also up against the University Azuri. That's tomorrow as well. Here's the tricky Sulav Maski, who's been back in his homeland over the last few months, playing for a team in the National League over there called the Brigade Boys. Very tricky, very talented player. Actually captained one of the Nepalese junior teams a few years ago. Works as a disability support worker in Darwin. All of these players, of course, have day jobs. Phil Wilkes with the goal kick. He's only just actually switched over to football from Aussie rules, so still learning the game. According to Daniel McCormick, he does at least have one big attribute. He's got a very loud voice, so he can communicate very well with his defenders. Is that true, John?
That's correct. Yeah, he does have a loud voice. So, in terms of young Phil, and I think he's going to give the opportunity to play, and obviously, with the experience and playing the games that he's going to play this year, will only make him better. So, again, I'm looking forward to seeing him this year. Play the games that he needs to play and see how he develops as a goalkeeper.
This is Dexter Newman for Hellenic. Another one of the UK-born brigade. He hails from Portsmouth, works as a metal fabricator during the day. Juno Gama on the right, as Hellenic just slow the pace down, string the passes together. This is Joel Powell, the Scouser. He played semi-pro with St Helens Town in the UK. Simon Bell allowed the time to turn. Kenny Nahn, who plays that holding midfield role, forced to turn back towards his own goal. Now Jesse Pinto. Hellenic comfortable in possession. Dan Bullman, scorer of the second goal. Warren Berry, scorer of the third. At the moment, Hellenic just playing in neat little triangles and letting the ball do the work. Tiring stuff for the opposition. Now they look to go long. Mindil just can't get a foot on the ball at the moment. They could be in trouble again here. That at least is well defended by Lockie Wright, one of the Indigenous players playing in the Norzone competition. Family very heavily involved with the Mindil Aces Club, life members. Charles Eriku. Throw-in will go Mindil Aces' way. Headed on by Eriku. Might break here for Tan U. Bill getting involved again. Steadied down by Kenny Nahn. Juno Gama on the right. Just slightly overhit by Bell, the return. Clearance from Taiki Kudo, but it's going to come straight back at the Aces. Now they should be able to get a bit of a breather. 20 minutes played, the resumption of senior football. First night in Australia. We've seen round ball back, and if you missed it earlier on today, the Indigenous women's team, the Yappers, went down 4-1 to Hellenic's women's outfit. So much talent in the Indigenous ranks as Hellenic look to sweep it forward, but there's nobody there down that right-hand side. And Will Reeve had to let the ball go out, and we will have our first drinks breaks. As we said, for us in the southern states, Johnny, it's probably quite warm, but I guess for you in the top end, these temperatures are rather chilly, mid-20s.
It is, Simon. I think I woke up today, it was 18 degrees this morning. So, yeah, got the old, I think it was the Fury jumper, actually. I got the Fury jumper out. Haven't worn that for a very long time.
You've still got one?
Up here. Still got one, yep.
The question I want to ask you, John, is do you still have a Neftchi Baku top who you played for in Azerbaijan?
I actually do. It's a long sleeve, but I never wear it, to be honest, Simon. So, yeah, some good times in Baku, mate, I can tell you that much.
I can imagine. John Francis just going through a few instructions for his team, but to be fair, they followed his instructions, I would imagine, to the letter in these opening 20 minutes. 3 goals clear already. And that 2-year project might be speeded up somewhat. Daniel McCormick, his opposite number, is only 26 and who hails from Zimbabwe, has rather more work to do, you fancy, for the Mindil Aces. Is there a way back into this game for them, John, do you think?
Look, I think, especially the first 3 goals that I've seen, lapse of concentration. I just think, I think Mindil just never came out of the sheds, to be honest. I think they were still in the sheds. Hellenic have come out and they're really up for it tonight. So I think if Mindil gets one back, I think they'll get their confidence back and we might see a good game in the end. But it just looks like Hellenic are, they're the ones that are, creating the chances, and I think Mindil at the moment just haven't found their game yet.
I think you're probably right. Hellenic, of course, the oldest football club in our codes in the Northern Territory, formed back in 1958. So 62 years old and a very storied club. Here's maybe a test and a slight miscommunication. Nothing totally untoward. Dan Bullman and goalkeeper Nick Theodorakopoulos sorting things out between them. Here's Sulav Maski. Square ball from Dan Bullman. Little drop of the shoulder will bring Jesse Pinto clear. It's lovely play. Trying to place it in front of Simon Bell, but left back Matt Mifsud always had the front position. Mindil survived that particular raid. A bit of space potentially for Prit Prus. We haven't seen much of the Estonian. I think that was a shot on goal. He was a long way out, but he doesn't need a second invitation. He top scored last year for the Mindil Aces with 18 goals. In fact, he was the Golden Boot winner in this particular tournament, including, John, I understand, an unbelievable overhead kick in round 1 last year against Hellenic.
That's right, Simon. Again, that was the goal of the week. I think that was goal of the season, to be honest. Great overhead. I think they won that game either 4-3 or 4-2. I think they won that game. So they started off quite well the season last year. Fell away sort of towards mid through the year. But again, found their feet again second part of the season and made their way to the finals, which they were unlucky to lose.
Yeah, 4-3 that game finished, and Prit Prus scored all 4. Just John Francis there talking to James Rushton Woods on the bench. Wonder if he's considering an early change. Meantime, the corner flashes across the face of goal, but the whistle has gone in favour of Hellenic for an infringement. And it is Juno Gama, I think, who is down with an injury. And that's perhaps why James Rushton Woods, who is a right fullback, has been spoken to by his coach, John Francis. Maybe that Juno Gama has picked up a bit of a knock. He doesn't look to be moving too cleverly, does he? He is of Portuguese heritage and Timorese. I wonder whether he's even going to be able to complete the first half. Jabbed forward by Simon Bell in the direction of Warren Barry. Sulav Maski is eager to take the throw in quickly, but Mindil Aces are back in position. Look at that strength again from Bell, just fending off his opponent's takey. Kudo, he's given away a fair few kilos to his Hellenic opponent, fair to say. Jesse Pinto. Now with Warren Barry, the Hellenic skipper. Kenny Nart. Pinto again with time to get the head up and try and pick out a teammate. In the end, it's off the chest of Lachlan Wright and Phil Wilkes out together. You just sense, John, that Mindil Aces just need to string a few passes together, sort of clear their heads a bit and try and get some sort of a foothold in this contest.
Yeah, exactly, Simon. They're struggling to string 3 or 4 passes together at the moment, and again they're getting into areas where you're looking at, once they get into that final third, it's a forced pass, or they're forcing things where instead of just being patient like Hellenic, you're looking at Hellenic. Hellenic, they're structured build up through the back, and then they try and play it through the ball through to midfield, and then have some link up play in the front third with Simon Bell. So I think they just got to be a bit more patient when they look at building up from the back and going into midfield, I think.
And maybe try and get Charles Ericu, their speedy winger on the left, on the ball a touch more, because he really does fly. But of course they will be aware of that. He's jogging over there, the 19-year-old who hails from Uganda, big Arsenal fan. Not sure that'll go down well with Johnny either. Family from Sudan, arrived in Australia back in 2005. Sorry, John, go on.
Simon, I can take Arsenal, Simon, to be honest. I can take Arsenal.
They're okay. I won't ask you about Man City.
Yeah.
Handball. Free kick for the Mindil Aces, which Taiki Kudo's nicknamed Mr. Miyagi because he's the instructor, the mentor for all these young kids at 44 years of age for the Mindil Aces. He plays that holding role in midfield. But Hellenic have certainly found a few gaps in and around him in these early stages. This is Will Reeve. Gets the return ball from Lachlan Wright. How much are they missing Zach Kirby tonight? Their regular skipper and central defender, the Aces, John.
Again, he's the one that marshals that defensive back line. And yeah, they've missed him tonight already. So
could be a chance here. Charles Ericu, they've got one back. And it is the youngster from Uganda, the 19-year-old, as mentioned. A kid with huge potential who used that pace over 3 or 4 meters. The little booty shake in celebration as well. They are on the board, the Mindil Aces, and it's Charles Ericu who brings it back to 3-1. Good finish too, John.
Yeah, great finish. And again, Charles, he's been quiet so far in this game, and if he gets going, Simon, he's a very, very good player. Again, still young and developing, but he's a very, very good player. So looking forward to seeing more of him.
His GPS device readings clock him at a top speed of over 34 kilometers an hour. So that gives you some idea as to just how speedy he is down that left-hand side. So that will just give the Mindil Aces a bit of confidence, perhaps. And these games between these two, John, are generally high scoring. Looking back at the history of these fixtures, and I don't think there's ever been a 0-0, certainly not in the last 10 years. The goals fly in at both ends.
Yeah, there's no defensive structures in these games, mate, to be honest. It's who scores the most, I guess. So it's like Man City, we will score 6 or 7 and we'll concede 3, that's okay. So I think they're pretty similar to that.
This is Warren Barry, who's already got himself on the score sheet. It might open up for them down the left, but Matthew Mifsud, who's of Maltese heritage, ensures that they make no further progress. It's going to be a throw-in, though, for Hellenic. Juno Gama still with us. Still not looking wholly comfortable, but fit enough at least to be able to take this throw-in. Half an hour played at the Darwin Football Stadium. Crowd limited to 500, of course. Kenny Nahn tries to thread the return back through for Gama, and it's going to be a corner for Hellenic. Now let's see if the Mindil Aces have learned from their mistakes. Dan Bullman was the man who got free and climbed highest last time. Bell, of course, needs to be watched. Bullman back up again from the back. Dexter Newman just loitering with intent on the edge of the penalty area. Pinto's corner towards that near post, and it was flicked on, I think, by Joel Powell. Now potentially a test for Phil Wilkes, but it just floats over the top of the goal. And they've survived that one at least, John.
Yeah, again, a lot of timber in that Hellenic, front line. When you look at Simon Bell, Obviously, Sulov's not the tallest, but he can whip a ball in, and any opportunity he gets on the X side of the box, he'll have a crack. So
this is Lockie Wright. Steered back by Kudo for Will Reeve. And now with Mifsud. Carpathios. Another youngster of immense promise. Had that spell, as mentioned, in Germany with Bundesliga giants Schalke, due to their tie-up with Sydney Olympic, where he played last year in the New South Wales competition. Here's the Mindil Aces goal scorer, Charles Eriku. He's all flicks and tricks as well as his pace, and he's got away from the fullback and kept the ball in play. And Mindil could reduce the deficit further here. Lockie Wright to reset. This is Tan U on the right. And he's got past Newman, or has he? Might have been a foul in there, but play on, and the shot comes in eventually from Kane McDowell, but Hellenic get bodies in the way. And then Eriku, showing that he's got a defensive side to his game as well, was mindful of that quick counter-attack. Maybe John Francis just again checking us the welfare of Juno Gama on this near touchline. Warren Barry trying to burrow his way through. Eriku, a little touch back by Proust. Five or so minutes to go of this first half. Reminder, a shortened game tonight, 80 minutes in total, given the players' amateur status and relative lack of training in recent weeks. How many weeks have they been back in training all told, John?
2 weeks. So in
2
terms
weeks.
of isolation training as well, so non-contact as well. So as long as they haven't forgotten to tackle, that's a good thing. So I've seen a few tackles flying, which is good. So,
Spoken like a true defender, John. Reeve. Oh, that's careless. Straight at Maskey. Could be damaging for Mindil. Simon Bell surrounded by black shirts, but he found Maskey. There was a little bit of contact, but referee happy to let that one ride. And Mindil will look to launch it forward through Lachlan Wright. The chase is on for Bruce and also for Ludvigsen. Turned inside by Tan U. Bruce losing out. Clip forwards, and there's no offside flag, or is there? Yes, there is. Or is there? Yes. Came a little late, but it came nonetheless to deny Hellenic potentially a fourth goal. Square for Will Reeve, who normally is a midfielder, known as a Steven Gerrard-style box-to-box runner, but having to be employed as a central defender tonight because of that injury to Zach Kirby. Here's Eriku trying to sprint through what was really a non-existent gap, and he was quickly shut down by Jesse Pinto. Now the pressure is on for Wilkes. Gets the ball out of harm's way. The bouncing ball defeats Proust. Now with Tan U on the right. Wasn't the best ball, but that was neatly controlled in the end by Charles Eriku, and he's going to get the decision as well from Albert Kraus. So a chance with half-time approaching for Mindil potentially to reduce the deficit to 1. And that really would set us up for a good second half. Free kick dead straight, and Ludvigsen was trying to get on the end of it. And the verdict is a corner, so the last touch did come off Nick Theodorakopoulos, who, to be fair, has been rather underemployed in this first half. Theodorakopoulos doesn't always play as a goalkeeper as well. He's played in a few outfield positions too, but as mentioned, seems to be a bit of a dearth of goalkeepers in the Northern Territory at the moment. Here's the corner, swung in towards that near post, and they're going to get another go, the Mindil Aces. There is Simon Bell, who's got an assist already tonight, but not as yet a goal. Got 15 last year. Former Manchester City Youth Academy player. Here's a chance potentially for Mindil Aces, but Lachlan Wright couldn't quite dig the ball out. And it's going to be a throw for Hellenic, which they're going to be in no particular hurry to take, understandably so. This rivalry between the two, John, has really grown over the last 12 months because of those victories for Mindil Aces last year. It's going to be offside, I think, or is it? Yeah, whistle has gone. Didn't realise it, but those wins for Mindil last year, John, I understand, didn't go down too well with Hellenic. There were rumours of one or two players pointing to the scoreboard and saying, take a good look at that scoreboard, you won't see it again next season. So there's a bit of an edge to this one.
There is, and obviously being the first game back after obviously the COVID restrictions and so forth. So both teams have a lot to prove in this game, and again, both have heavily recruited as well. So yeah, mate, she's going to get those bragging rights. And at the moment, Hellenic they look quite comfortable. But as the game's gone on, I think Mindil have slowly played their way into this game.
And in terms of the championship race this year, apart from these two, Casuarina, are they again a strong chance to retain their crown?
Yeah, they're looking strong as well this year. Speaking to their coach a couple of weeks ago, they've recruited a couple of players as well, and they've maintained most of their squad from last year as well. So they've got a good batch of young players coming through as well there. So by all means, they'll be in the finals this year as well.
And when are we going to see the next John Tambouris or Hamilton Thorpe, the two big names from the NT, to go and play National League and maybe overseas?
I'm hoping very, very soon. We've got the high performance program in the Northern Territory at the moment, which has gone full time. So there's a lot of talent here at the moment. A lot of Indigenous players as well, which is great to see, both men and women, and boys and girls. So hopefully we see not one, but 2 or 3 or 4 that are playing at a national level.
Great to see. Here's Matthew Mifsud, who's pushed up on that left-hand side, but the half-time whistle goes, and right on cue as well. 40 minutes played, no injury time. What a first half it has been, by and large, for Hellenic. Still smarting from their poor season last year, smarting from those 2 defeats by the Mindil Aces in the third game, which ended in a draw, but they really started like a train. Goals from Munya after 5 minutes, and then from Dan Bullman on 9 minutes. Both really, you have to say, down at least in part to goalkeeping mistakes. And then Warren Barry making it 3 after 14 minutes from Simon Bell's assist. But Mindil did come back, and they managed to find a way back into the game in the 29th minute. Charles Ericu, the promising pacey winger, making it 3-1, and that is at the half-time scoreline. The players, of course, will not go off into the dressing rooms during the half-time interval because with the current COVID restrictions, they are out of bound to maintain the physical separation, so they'll remain out on the pitch. In a moment or two, we'll go back down to Bruce Stolder, but at half-time, that is the way it looks at the Darwin Football Stadium. Hellenic 3, Mindil Aces 1. And a good first half, John Tambouris. I I think Johnny's gone. Maybe to join Bruce, who we'll catch up with in a minute. As mentioned, a couple of other games in the Football Northern Territory Premier League North Zone tomorrow. Port Darwin against Casuarina, and then the Darwin Hearts up against University Azzurri. But here at the moment, Hellenic looking good to go top of the league tonight. Let's join Bruce.
Good evening. This is Darwin Football Stadium. This is in the top end of Australia, Northern Territory, first to go, first men's game anywhere in the country. My name's Bruce Stalder. So good to hear Simon Hill call a game here. Everyone I'm talking to on the sideline is just like, isn't this amazing? They're all over their little devices having a look, John. I've got John Tambouris, our technical director, ex-A-League player, played in many places in the world. John, under COVID pathways to the new normal, this is stage 3, started today, and we can only have 500 people in the venue. So we just did a count, it's 500, so you have to go home. No worries. Mate, how have you enjoyed the half?
Again, great half. Hellenic came out all guns blazing. Let's be honest, Hellenic first 15 minutes, I think they were 3-0 up. So it took a while for Mindil to get their feet. Again, watching the way Hellenic are playing, they're pretty structured in terms of what they're doing. The structured build up through the back into midfield, and then playing forward with his midfield. In terms of Mindil Aces, it just took them 15-20 minutes to get going. So I think they were still in the dressing room, Bruce. So hopefully they've scored a goal and they've got themselves back in the game, and looking forward to seeing them in the second half.
And when you talk about the mixture of youth and experience in that side, which we were talking about before the kick-off, do you think that's part of the reason that they were bodies on the pitch but head in the change room?
Oh, of course, and again, speaking to Daniel McCormack, the Mindil coach before the game, he was saying to me that we've got two central defenders under 20 years old. So, and that's great to see. So, obviously, these kids they'll get better and better as the year goes on, and I've no doubt that with what Daniel's doing at Mindil Aces, Mindil will be in the finals this year for sure. And
let's just concentrate on Hellenic just for a moment. It's good to see Jesse Pinto back playing in football here in Darwin. He looked like he hadn't been away. His touches were always assured.
Yeah. Again, I've seen Jesse play probably 2 or 3 years ago when he was in Darwin. So again, sits in the middle of the park. He's a general in the middle of the park. He pulls the strings. He's got the voice as well. He gets the players going. So seeing Jesse back here in Darwin playing, again, it's a pleasure watching him play.
And one of my favourite players played in the position that you did, up there in the back, central defender. And he's very similar to you in that his work ethic is extraordinary. He mightn't be the most skillful person in the world, sorry, John, but he's really, really, really tough on the ball. And that's Dan Bullman. That goal he snuck in there, was fantastic. Yeah,
again, he's very, very good off set pieces. And we're not going to hear the end of that one, to be honest. But, again, a goal's a goal. But, again, got on the end of that. And they've got some tall timber on set pieces. So I think Dan McCormack will be telling his players, hey, let's tighten up on set pieces because we might cop a couple more.
Yeah, he just walked past and they're cutting a hole in the door. so he can get in. Listen, I just want to quickly talk about Mindil and Mindil Aces, and that was a really nice goal to come back to 3-1 with. We've seen Charles Rd2 come through the ranks as a youngster. He's still only a baby, but he's getting sharper and sharper, and he's got one game under his belt. So we look forward to seeing how he'll progress over the year. But he's someone who represents the future of our game.
Definitely. We've seen him last year. He's developed as playing senior football. We're seeing him this year. He's obviously taken off where he left off from last year. So he's got himself on the score sheet. He's super quick. He's technically very good. He will ask the right backs questions all day. So I'm looking forward to seeing him this year play for his club and score more goals.
Let's just quickly, before we get John Francis in, the coach of Hellenic, I've missed my A-League as well, mate. I can't follow my Raw. I can't see my Mariners play. Can't see Victory getting beaten or any of the Melbourne teams. Have you missed it as well?
I have. And looking at, we're obviously close to finals now, so they'll obviously be getting prepared, and there's some teams that can still probably sneak in and some might miss out. But yeah, looking forward to the A-League again and looking in football in general. I mean, the Premier League's still got to finish up, and don't really want to see the Premier League because Liverpool are going to win the league, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, and looking forward to the Premier League starting and the A-League as well.
Seriously, you are pathetic. I thought somewhere you'd mentioned Manchester at some point. They're the United team. But look, I'll get John Francis in. I'll let you actually talk to John. I'll hand the microphone over to you. The next person to come in division will be John Francis, coach of Hellenic. Hey, John, you're 3-1 up. How excited are you to be back on the pitch, first of all?
Oh, it's a relief just to be back playing. It's great. And, I think we're putting on a show at the moment. It's quite even, really. I don't think the score is justified. The scoreline's justified. But we've got a game on our hands here. So... enjoying being back and playing. You can see the lads are enjoying themselves. So
yeah, I can see it with you as well on your bench. You are excited. Is that, I know you would have had 3 or 4 sleeps and not much sleep over it, but is this how you thought it would go?
Kind of. Respect to Mindil, they're playing well. A bit disappointed in our boys at the moment, but I'm hoping this half we'll lift our game a little bit and make sure we come away with a victory here.
And on your bench, you've got some youngsters there. Do they get some time tonight, you think?
Well, I'm hoping so. I'd really like to give them a chance on here. We'll see how the game pans out. My objective is to give the kids a go and just let them have a taste of this. We'll see how we go. Yeah.
And we always forget, it's exciting for you too. This is your second game back in Darwin. You've been away for a while, back in coaching. And just as a general comment about coaching, mate, has it got that blood running again?
Oh, certainly. And I'm lucky to be here at Hellenic. Hellenic, a big club here in Darwin. I'm just grateful, for the opportunity. So hopefully I can prove something this year. And let's see how we go.
Mate, it's been a pleasure to have you in the technical area. Pleasure to have you back. And congratulations. Look forward to a second half. See how you come home.
Thanks a lot. Good on.
We're here at Darwin Football Stadium, and as I said, the first game of football back anywhere in Australia. How exciting is that? We're about to come back with a second half. You're going to hear the voice of football, the extraordinary Simon Hill. I know he'll hate me saying that, but it's just so good to have him. We can't believe it. We keep pinching ourselves that he's actually calling one of our men's Premier League games here. So we'll be throwing to Simon in the studio shortly. But I want to thank everybody at FFA, our team here for getting this organised. I want to thank the government and our health officials for making this the safest place in Australia. So we are literally the only place in Australia you can see football, the only place in the world where you can see football with a crowd. Enjoy.
Well, welcome back to the Darwin Football Stadium. We're back underway. Start of the second half. Reminder of the scoreline: Hellenic 3, Mindil Aces 1. And interesting to hear that John Francis was disappointed with his team's performance in that first half. He obviously has pretty high standards. Talking to him during the week, I know he's spent a fair bit of time in Spain studying the methods of Barcelona. He's also a big fan of Sarri ball. They played at Napoli, but they've turned the ball over here. Hellenic could be a chance here for the Mindil Aces to reduce the deficit further, but unfortunately for them, they have sprayed that ball way over the top in the shape of Tavian Ludvigsson, who hasn't had too many opportunities this evening. Just to bring you up to date, they have made a substitution, Hellenic, and it is the one that we expected. Juno Galma, who was struggling with injury in that first half, has been replaced by James Rushton Woods, another Scouser. Give you some information on him in a moment to see how this pans out for Hellenic. It's with Simon Bell. Kenny Nahn under heavy pressure, and he's turned the ball over. Are they going to be able to keep it alive, the Mindil Aces? They do, through their captain, Kane McDowell. But he can't quite link up with Ludvigsson, the big Welshman who is leading the line for the Mindil Aces. Born in Barry. And his young cousin Kai Ludvigsson has just signed for Swansea City, I can tell you. This is Prit Kroos, the Estonian. Good sliding challenge, beautifully timed by Bullman. And then a long-range effort. Tests Nick Theodorakopoulos. Not fully, it must be said, but even so, Mindil Aces starting this second half as they mean to go on. They believe there's still something in this game for them. This is Dexter Newman. Pinto left it a touch short, and it'll break here for Eriku, who went first time towards Ludvigsson. And then Ludvigsson almost got in his own teammate's way, really, as Eriku tried to come through behind him. Maybe those fears from John Francis were well-founded in expressing his disappointment. Here's Pinto, has to hurry. Newman looking to go down the line. Munyar Ruparangandu, score of the game's first goal, couldn't quite get on the end of it. Now the chase is on, and it requires a big hoik away. Here's Eriku. Little flick inside for Ludvigsson. Oh, and again, just the chemistry not right between him and his teammate. Tan U was arriving behind him. This has been a strong start to the second half by the Mindil Aces. This is James Rushton Woods on at the break for Gama. Here he is, the Scouser, who works as a manager at the local Hilton Hotel, won the Rising Star of the Year award in 2019. Played in semi-pro football for St Helens Town in the Northwest Counties League in England during his formative years. Jab forward by Taiki Kudo, but no real control over his release. All the way back to Theodorakopoulos. Maskey. Oh, that was a clever ball. And again, the chase was on, but Phil Wilkes out smartly to gather, the young 16-year-old. Looks as though Daniel McCormick, the Mindil Aces coach, has given his team a little bit of a rocket at half-time. Ludvigsson, can he get on the end of this one? Ludvigsson, incidentally, not just returning as the rest of the players are to football after a long break, but he actually hasn't played senior football in over a decade, since his days in semi-pro back in the UK. Here's Proust, and the deflection means that the chase is on again for Ludvigsson, but brave goalkeeping by Theodorakopoulos. Seemingly has picked up a bit of a whack for his troubles in that little contretemps with Ludvigsson. Sliding challenge by Mifsud, and again Mindil continue their forward progress. Charles Ericus, really strong challenge, but a good one by Pell, and away comes Munya Ruparanganda on the left. But right, sticking to his task. Had to as well, Pacey Munya, who was once a teammate of Archie Thompson, incidentally. Played with Murray United in Victoria, the NPL2 East, a couple of seasons ago. Also had a little trial spell with Stockport County in England a few years ago. That's the number 11 for Hellenic, scorer of the game's first goal, which seems an awful long time ago now. There's been a lot happen since then. Oh, and Carpathios, and he was late at the challenge. The referee has no hesitation in blowing the whistle. It's a yellow card as well. Simon Bell upended, but Carpathios got himself in an awful tangle here. Bounced, the ball just seemed to hold up slightly. He had to readjust and couldn't have possibly been aware of Simon Bell coming through the other way. So booking for Carpathios and a free kick for Hellenic right on the edge of the Mindil Aces penalty area. Sulav Maskey perhaps fancies this one. One of the most exciting players in the Northern Territory. 15 goals last year. Joint top scorer along with Simon Bell. All of 4 to protect goalkeeper Phil Wilkes. See if Hellenic can extend their lead here. It is Sulav Maskey, and he's dragged his shots wide of that right-hand upright. So touch disappointed, understandably so. I wonder if John Tambouris is back with us. Can you hear us, John?
Yeah, I'm here, Simon.
You're there, that's good to hear. Looks as though Mindil got a bit of a talking to at half-time. They came out firing.
Yeah, I had a quick chat to Daniel McCormick before I came in, and obviously told his troops, you know, take out those first 15 minutes, we've been in the game. So the tails were a little bit up as soon as they scored that goal, but they've come out different team in the second half.
I'm surprised you talked to him, John. He's a Liverpool fan, Daniel McCormick, which I suppose, given he's from Zimbabwe, his hero was Bruce Grobbelaar, is understandable.
That's the problem I've got, Simon. Everyone that I know is practically Liverpool, so Yeah.
Me too, mate.
They're everywhere.
Don't worry.
They're everywhere, everywhere.
Free kick for Mindil. Kane McDowell, their captain to take. 21-year-old who's played in the US college system for a couple of years before returning home in 2018. Wearing that captain's armband due to the absence of Zach Kirby. Let's see what he can do with this set-piece situation. Well, it was ambitious. Ultimately, no trouble for Nick Theodorakopoulos. Does he score a few set pieces like that from that sort of range normally, John?
Yep, no worries.
He's got a pretty good foot on him, to be honest. Hasn't hit one in a while. I thought that was going to be his night tonight. But yeah, when obviously set piece takers, yeah, he's one of them from Mindil that normally takes them. So he's quite good on set pieces. Obviously that effort let him down.
Little too much elevation from McDowell. Taiki Kudo busying himself in midfield. Now Ludvigsson linking up with Prit Prus, who can hit them. Hellenic had bodies in the way. Tall figure of Dan Borman. Now Munya trying to spin away and set things up at the other end for Hellenic. Mindil drive them back again. Ludvigsson on the right. Tan U. Rather hopeful ball, looking for Mifsud on the left. Still alive for Mindil though. It's Eriku trying to bend it, and it might just have sneaked in the wrong corner there. And it was dipping. It was awkward for Nick Theodorakopoulos, but he got two good hands to the ball to deflect it behind for a corner, John.
Yeah, very good strike from Charles. Again, he gets into good pockets of space in that front third, and if he turns and he sees that goal, he won't hesitate to have a crack. So he's
an exciting player, isn't he? Do you feel he's one that could potentially go on and play at a higher level?
Yeah, I think he could. Again, he's got all the. You know, he's quite strong. He's quite quick. He's very good on the ball. He's good at 1v1 when it comes to 1v1. So
now the ball's been bundled into the back of the net, and the referee has allowed the goal. Tavian Ludvigsson is claiming it. Hellenic perhaps feeling there might have been an infringement on the goalkeeper, but was the ball fully in the goalkeeper's hands? And Ludvigsson, the man who's been out for 11 years in terms of senior football, the Welshman celebrates his return with a goal. The cross was from Kane McDowell, and the goalkeeper seemingly had it within his grasp. But Ludvigsson was physical and strong and determined, and the referee was happy to let this one stand. Let's have another look at it, John. Talk us through it.
So it looks like the keeper spilt it there, Simon. So yep. I think that's a fair goal.
Yep. The replay confirms your instincts, and Mindil are back in it at 3-2.
Just seems like it's all Mindil so far in the second half. Just Mindil's just, ball hasn't gone up to Hellenic's front third for a while now. I can't even remember how long it's been since it's been up there. So again, obviously that talk at half time has done a world of great for these players, and obviously the message has gotten through from Daniel McCormack.
And talking of that half-time talk, we heard from John Francis with Bruce Stolder, and I must admit, I was a little bit surprised to hear him say that he was disappointed with his team. Maybe he knew what was coming. Maybe he sensed this.
Maybe, because again,
Mindil came to bed.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, it looked like Mindil were coming into the game. As soon as they scored, it looked like they were coming more and more into the game. I just think they didn't settle the first 15 minutes. So, again, and you could see Hellenic with, I don't know if you could say they were tiring, or you just see Mindil coming back into the game in the later part of that first half. So the writing was on the wall, and I think John Francis had a point.
Well, this fixture continues to produce the goals. We had 14 in the 3 meetings between the two clubs last year, and 5 again so far tonight. And still a fair chunk of time remaining. And at this point, there only seems to be one team capable of changing matters, and that's Mindil. Throw in by Mifsud. Prit-Prus, the 31-year-old from Estonia, trying to weave his way through, but not quite on the same wavelength as Eriku. Prit-Prus is an interesting character, John, isn't he? I know he's sort of... the club have a rule, if you don't train, you don't play, but he's sometimes the exception to that because he's such a good player, and I know he has a very physical job during the day as well, so they give him a bit of leeway, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Again, he with his job and commitments that he's got with work, obviously he's got a bit of leeway with his club, but he tends to look after himself. You know, he looks after his body. You know, you could call it he's a professional when it comes to, you know, working hard and doing the extra yards. So, and again, his experience on the pitch is really, really good. So, I think you know, the information he gives to young players is what the club needs and what's looking for. So, he's an asset to have at a club. I can tell you that right now, Simon.
Yeah, especially when he wins the Golden Boot for you, as he did last year with 18 goals.
And he's quite mobile as well. For a tall man, he's very mobile. I mean, you know, he can get really tall players. Reminds me of Peter Crouch, actually. Just the way he moves sometimes. He's quite good with his feet for a tall man. So he's not a bad player.
I don't think Peter Crouch worked in chemical and waste management from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. though, John.
Yeah, you're right there.
And then put on the football boots to go and try and score in the evening. Here's Warren Barry for Hellenic, who really have been under the pump since the resumption. Jabbed forward by Joel Powell, but again, it's going to come back with interest, and the chase is on for Ludvigsson. Daniel Bullman gets it out of harm's way for now, steadied down by Kenny Nahn. He gets the return from Powell, and then thumped forward, but it's just all rather hopeful stuff from Hellenic at the moment. And that's a 3-goal cushion that they enjoyed in the first quarter of an hour of this contest. Seems an awful long time ago. And they've conceded another free kick here for the foul on Charles Eriku. This would be some comeback if Mindil were able to turn this one around. They are well along in their particular journey to get there. Free kick to be taken by Carpathios. Squares it up for Lachlan Wright on the right. Strong challenge by Dexter Newman, and Munyar is away. And there's a gap here. They can flick it on towards Sulab Maski, which was Simon Bell's intention. Just found the defender in the road. Play just starting to become a little more stretched than it was in the first half. Whistle's gone here as Eriku is bowled over. Flags up, everything happening here, everybody appealing. The upshot is a free kick to the Mindil Aces. We said there was a bit of heat in this one. Just a little nudge in the back there from Kenny Nahn on Charles Eriku. That was enough for Albert Krause to blow the whistle. And here's the Mindil Aces' first change. And Will Reeve is going to be replaced. The makeshift sort of central defender, Marcus Lee, is on. In fact, it's going to be a double change. Matt Mifsud is also going to be replaced. I'm going to see the big Scotsman, John Hughes, who's been suffering with a back injury, I understand, John, this week, which is why perhaps he's not in the starting 11 from the off.
Yeah, Hughesy had a good pre-season just before, obviously, COVID. And, you know, coming back, I think he's tweaked something in his back, I think. I'm not sure, 100% sure, but, yeah, you'll be getting, once he's fit and firing, he'd be a good asset for Mindil Aces this year.
32-year-old Scotsman who works as a civil contractor. And the other change, as mentioned, sees Marcus Lee enter the fray in place of Will Reeve. Marcus Lee, I can tell you, is only just 16 years of age and had a trial with Melbourne City last year. Also played with a couple of the junior teams. He's a bit of a utility player as well, John.
Yeah, he could play anywhere across the back. Again, Marcus, promising young player coming out of Darwin as well. Had a trial with Melbourne City. which again he found quite an experience after I had a chat to him when he got back, and enjoyed his great, enjoyed the whole experience of Melbourne City. But playing senior football, it's his second year playing senior football, and obviously he's going to develop into a better player as well, no doubt about it.
Well, this is the goal that got Mindil Aces back into the swing of things through Charles Eriku. That was as long ago as the 29th minute, but in the second half it's been all about the Aces, and they've got that second goal, which really puts them back in with a shout now, thanks to Tavian Ludvigsson. These are some of the highlights from earlier. Sulap Maski's free kick, which was some minutes ago, rather disappointing from the Nepalese. And this is the second Mindil Aces goal, which won't go down as the greatest goalkeeping moments, next to the name of Nick Theodorakopoulos, allowed the ball to spill out, and Tavian Ludvigsson was there to make it 3-2. So back with the live action. And thumped away by Hellenic. Simon Bell worrying Marcus Lee. Again, there's a bit of a size differential there, but Lee standing his ground, and Mindil get the decision. And increasing frustration for Hellenic. I just wonder how important that drinks break was for John Francis, just to try and reset his players' heads, because they've been under the pump, John, in the second half.
Yeah, it has been all Mindil this half, and I'm pretty sure John Francis would have told the boys, hey, we haven't won the game. Obviously, they thought maybe 3-0 was enough, and Mindil have come out firing in the second half. So
Charles Eriku chasing back to dispossess Simon Bell, and then going to ground, wanting the free kick. It took a while before the whistle came, but ultimately it did. And that's the signal for one or two protests towards referee Albert Kraus. Taiki Kudo showing all his experience, just going over to young Eriku and saying, okay, just calm it. You don't need to ask for the yellow card. Let the referee officiate the game. Carpathios with the free kick for Mindil. Up towards Ludvigsson. Ball's bobbling around, and Britt Bruce hits it sweetly, but unfortunately for the Mindil Aces, with a little bit too much elevation. Did take a touch though on the way through, so it is going to be a corner for the Aces. Maybe just flicked off the back of Joel Powell. So more pressure for Hellenic. Corner is worked short towards Taiki Kudo. Hellenic get bodies in the way and now look to break. It is Munyar on the left. Look at the numbers swarming around him. Well, Mindil certainly as well, John. I don't know if you agree. Look, not only the more composed of the two teams at the moment, but also the fitter.
yeah, exactly. Again, speaking of Daniel McCormack during the last 2 weeks, I know they've been doing a heavy fitness regime, obviously with the isolation training. They've been concentrating a lot on fitness and trying to get up to scratch with all the players. I do recall Daniel's brother, who works with Melbourne City as well in the A-League, is up here in Darwin at the moment as well. So he's been out at Mindil Aces implementing all these physical strength and conditioning exercises as well. So it's starting to show that Mindil look fitter out of the two teams.
Talking of which, problem here for Munyar Ruparanganda. He's just stretching out that right leg and looks to have a bit of a problem. Wants some attention before he can continue. Or maybe he's just saying, I can't continue. You're going to have to make a change. Well, if that's the case, then that's a pity, really, for Hellenic, because he was the guy who got things started for them as long ago as the 5th minute with the opening goal. Boy from Zimbabwe originally. More changes afoot for Mindil. Proust is replaced. And Kane McDowell's free kick. Up in the air it goes and hits in the back of the net. It is 3-3. And would you believe, straight off the bench and onto the score sheet. That is remarkable. Talk about an inspired substitution. Well, what a change made by Daniel McCormick. I'm afraid I can't bring you the name of the goal scorer because number 16 does not appear on my team sheet. Maybe Johnny Tambouras can tell me who scored it.
I have no idea, Simon.
Thanks, John. Well, anyway, we know that he came off the bench and within a few seconds he's on the score sheet. So we'll try and find out the name for you. Meantime, Hellenic stung. They've let a 3-goal lead slip. Can they get their noses back in front? Warren Barry challenging successfully. Good intervention by Borman. I can tell you the goal scorer is the number 15, Thiago Arujo. He's on the pitch only a matter of seconds, replacing Proust. What an introduction. Meantime, tied it up further back by George Carpathios. I can tell you that Thiago Arujo, who's Brazilian by birth, goes by the nickname of the Beer Genie. Apparently you open a beer and he appears. And I fancy John, he might have 1 or 2 tonight after scoring with his first touch off the bench.
He's actually technically very, very good. I've had him in camp a couple of times when we had the men's team. So he's technically very good. All Brazilians are technically very good, as you know. So and again, good lad as well. So I reckon he might get another one tonight, to be honest.
Another change made by Hellenic. Simon Bell has departed the scene. And Manoli Jalouris, who's a veteran of the club, is with us. As Hellenic desperately try and turn things around. And they have the same impact off the bench as Mindil did. Phil Wilkes with the long clearance forward for the Aces, who dominated this second period. Kane McDowell brings it down. Taiki Kudo. Arujo let it run, believing his teammate further back was going to pick it up, but not the case. Eriku, lovely bit of skill. Pass one, but not the second one. Kenny Nahn doing that defensive screening role to perfection. Free kick for Hellenic. A bit of breathing space for them. Jesse Pinto rolls it short for Nahn. Turned back by Barry and swept out towards Rushton Woods on the right. This is another one of the Nepalese players, Ravin Shrestha. The cross is dangerous and headed just wide by Sulab Maski, who arrived late, but did get in front of the defender. Teasing cross from Rushton Woods. Taiki Kudo had to hurry. Was challenged unfairly from behind by Warren Barry. But just one or two signs, John, of a little bit of a recovery from Hellenic. Maybe those changes starting to take effect for them.
Yeah, you can see they're slowly getting into the game now. Again, couple of changes by John Francis, and it looks like there's an injury now for Mindil, which doesn't look good.
Yeah, it was a heavy collision, but good to see that he is back up on his feet, albeit rather gingerly. That's a good spin. Here's Shrestha. Quite as impressive as his earlier tee-up for James Rushton Woods. Well, Mindil is clearly making another change at the moment. Unfortunately, I can't tell you who that is. George Carpathios walking pretty heavily. I think I heard the public address announcer say that Taiki Kudo had been replaced. By whom? I guess we'll have to try and find out. Johnny, can you enlighten us?
Just have a, no, I don't have a clue, to be honest, Simon. No clue.
We'll get there.
I've got the same team sheet as you, mate.
Here's Kenny Nahn. Won't quite drop for McDowell. Nahn will sweep it out towards Ravin Shrestha on the right. Just a little bit more controlled by Hellenic. This is Rushton Woods. Shrestha, that was ambitious. A little bit too much so, really. Now Arujo to pump it forward, but nobody there in black for the Mindil Aces. We've had a cracking resumption, John, to senior football. 6 goals, plenty of talking points. They always deliver, these two.
Yeah, that's right. And again, obviously 2 weeks in training, back in training. Again, pace of the game started quite rapid, first 15 minutes. But as the game's worn on now, I can see fitness is starting to get the better. Obviously, passes are going a bit astray at the moment. And you can see that fitness is sort of playing its part now with most of the players.
I can tell you, Nick Concionis is with us on the right-hand side for the Mindil Aces. Well, Taiki Kudo has now been replaced, but unfortunately, again, our cameraman has missed it, which is a pity. So we'll have to try and give you news on that in a moment. But Kudo is definitely off. Meantime, free kick for Hellenic. And the bouncing ball favours Phil Wilkes. Kenny Narn sticks a foot out in midfield to hold up Mindil's progress, but they're flooding forward now. It's Charles Ericu in possession. And he's chopped down on the edge of the penalty area. That's going to be a yellow card for Rushton Woods. And a free kick in pretty good position. Let's see whether Kane McDowell can do a little bit better with this set piece, John.
Yeah, good area. This should favour Kane, so hopefully he doesn't get under it like he did before and makes a keep, at least make a save.
Number 4 protecting Nick Theodorakopoulos' goal. Looks as though Kane McDowell's actually been waved away for this one. Thiago Arujo, having scored once off the bench, fancies being the match winner. Let's see if the Brazilian can produce a Brazilian-style free kick. It is Arujo. Oh! What about that for a goal? What a hit from Thiago Arujo, who has come off the bench and turned this game completely on its head for the Mindil Aces. 3-0 down after 14 minutes. Now, unbelievably, they lead 4-3, and Arujo scored twice off the bench, and that one was an absolute peach.
He is Brazilian, Simon.
Well, you're not wrong. I mean, he's just leathered that, Johnny. That is some hit. What a turnaround in this game. Absolutely incredible. Do Hellenic have anything left, John? Can you see a way back at it for them after leading 3-0?
Honestly, I haven't seen anything since the first 15 minutes of the first half in terms of, you know, that creativeness they had in the first 15 minutes. So, look, hopefully it does. Hopefully we do see another goal. But at this point in time, all the momentum's with Mindil Aces.
Well, it's certainly been good entertainment, hasn't it? That's for sure. Confirm those 2 changes for you. Lockie Wright was replaced by Nick Concionis for Mindil Aces. Concionis wearing 2. And Taiki Kudo has been replaced, and Kyriakos Timotheou is with us in midfield. And Hellenic are now desperate. And here's a test for the young keeper. Oh, he's dealt with that one really well. Maybe that's where his AFL training came in. As the long ball is pumped forward, looking to utilise the pace of Ericu. This time he's shepherded out a bit by Joel Pell. There's some tired bodies out there as well, which could make for an exciting last few minutes. Pay no heed to the clock, incidentally, which shows stoppage time. We are going to play 80 minutes tonight. I think the clock was set for the women's game earlier on, which was 35 minutes each way. And here come Mindil again. Rushton Woods to see it out. Well, that is full time. Well, I'm staggered by that. I thought we were playing 80 minutes tonight, John.
So did I.
There we go. Full-time whistle's gone. Everything that game had. Goals, substitutes who we didn't know coming on. And a game that we thought was 80 minutes but only lasted 70. But in the end,
Well,
what a contest that was.
I've got 80 minutes on the scoreboard, Simon, so...
Well, there you go. Anyway, that was some game. 7 goals. Hellenic led by 3-0 after 14 minutes. Munyar, Bullman and Barry And then Mindil came back into it. Eriku on 29 minutes. But the second half, a complete turnaround. Ludvigsson got it back to 3-2. And then Thiago Arujo came off the bench and scored twice. An inspired change by Daniel McCormick. And it is the Mindil Aces, remarkably, who come away with all 3 points. Last year's grand finalists serving notice that they intend to go one better this year. They are top of the FNT Premier League North Zone tonight. Although, of course, Casuarina can regain that lead if they beat Port Darwin tomorrow. As for Hellenic, well, maybe a season of rebuilding ahead, as John Francis hinted at. And they are still without a win against Mindil Aces in over a year. That was quite some match, quite a turnaround. And they're carrying their young goalkeeper off, Phil Wilkes. He didn't have the happiest first half, in fairness. He made a couple of big errors, but in the end, he finishes up on the winning side. What a game of football. Hellenic 3, Mindil Aces 4. Johnny, sum that game up for us. He's gone too. They've left me on my own. Not to worry. We shall wait for a moment or two and then get some reaction with Bruce Stalder. I think he's going to try and talk to the two coaches for us. In the meantime, Mindil taking the applause of the crowd, which was limited to 500 tonight. But I'm sure they got full money's worth tonight, those who paid for entry. Terrific game of football and a tremendous comeback by Daniel McCormick's team. They obviously got a rocket put up them at half-time and turned it around superbly. So as we watch some of the goals again, this is Simon Hill saying goodnight from Sydney. Terrific night's football action. Great to have it back. I hope you enjoyed our coverage. We've got some interviews coming up, I think, with Bruce. And that free kick is worth watching over again, isn't it? Thiago Arujo, the Brazilian, wins the points off the bench for the Mindil Aces. And there they go to celebrate. Have a good night, everyone.
Sorry, I want to take this opportunity to thank Simon Hill too. It's been fantastic to be graced with his voice. It put so much command and prestige into our game. And little old Darwin was at the forefront, the vanguard of football here in Australia. It was the very first game of football anywhere in Australia, certainly the first game of football with a crowd anywhere in the world. Of course, we're all going through COVID-19. None of us have been there before, and none of us are coming out of it. So it was a fantastic night. A lot of work done by a lot of people to make sure we met the guidelines and principles of Stage 3 and the roadmap to new normal. So I want to thank Simon again, the team at FFA, for giving us access to their digital channels, and of course to Perform for taking this to a potential worldwide audience, and they'll be with us all year when the broadcast of our Men's Premier League. I have John Tambouris with us, the technical director and ex-A-League player. John, there's I don't think Charles Dickens has been mentioned in a football broadcast, but there's this great novel called A Tale of Two Cities. Definitely Tale of Two Halves.
Oh, exactly, and what a way to finish it. I mean, the fourth goal from Thiago, again, couldn't get a better goal. I reckon it's contender for goal of the season already. So, in terms of, I think football again was the winner tonight. Hellenic 3-0 up, 3-1 up, in the first half. Thought, you know what, I think we've done enough here. But again, Mindil came out second half. Daniel McCormick that message must have got through to his players, and they came out in the second half and scored 3 goals and really good goals as well.
And John, we had 7 goals, so for a neutral like ourselves, that was just entertaining. Capital E.
Exactly, and it sort of it reminded me of last year's result between the two clubs. Again, where Prue scored 4 goals last year. So, in terms of entertainment, I mean, both these two clubs, when they play each other, you're always going to get a good game. And it's like they don't want to defend; they just want to score goals, which is great to see. So, look, again, good game, great to start things off. But again, just looking at the way Hellenic controlled the first half, and then the way Mindil came into the second half. It just goes to show that you've always got a chance to come and win the game, and they did that tonight.
Yeah, and they took it right to the last minute to do that. And to your point earlier that their heads were in the sheds, bodies on the park. I love football, I love sport, but football's so much of a mental game as well as a physical game. It was almost reversed. Like Hellenic thought, we've done enough. What was your feeling about that? Was there some changes made that changed the momentum there?
I wouldn't say changes. I thought that when the first 15 minutes, I think Hellenic were the only ones that came out of the sheds, and it took Mindil 15 minutes to 20 minutes to actually adjust and to actually get a feel of the game. So as the game went on, you could see that they started to get more and more into the game, and then once they scored that first goal before half time, I think their tails were a little bit up. And then they came in first 5-10 minutes, second half. It was all Mindil, and credit to them. They kept on driving forward, they created chances, and they got the reward by scoring 3 goals.
And the other thing too is that we're expecting, because we want to look after player welfare, so it's a shortened half to 40 minutes. A drinks break is mandatory as well. But mate, there is dew on the ground here, and this does not happen. And I noticed also, like our winter here in the Northern Territory lasts about 6 hours. So from your point of view, it was chilly for you up there, wasn't it?
It was.
And back in there as well. So that allowed the players to manage fatigue.
Exactly, and we sort of saw towards the last 5 or 10 minutes, a couple of players were going astray, and that was due to maybe players' fitness and so forth. But looking at Mindil, the way they close the games, I was talking to Daniel McCormack during the week, and he was saying, look, we're working heavily on strength and conditioning and the fitness side of things. And it showed. They closed out the game tonight, and they were the team on top.
Now, listen, I'll get you to stay here on the mic, and I'll ask our favourite player who flies a helicopter. Please come in. Come in, please, into the goal scorer here tonight as well. Congratulations. I'll let John talk to you about the game, but wonderful score a goal.
Thank you very much. It was we need to get a goal to catch up the score. So it was a great goal. Yeah.
So in terms of the game, you were down 3-0 first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
What was the message from Daniel going into the second half especially?
Actually, we did a training yesterday. Then starting point was a 2-0 point to getting back. So that mentality up there, it's already there from yesterday. Then Dan gave us the mentality.
And speaking of Dan, during the week, you were going through a 2-week, obviously the last 2 weeks in training and isolation.
Yeah.
You were doing a lot of fitness. Is that true? Yes.
Yeah, pretty much everything. The running, not much the touching the ball. Just the couple of weeks of make the fitness back to our level.
And how old are you?
43. I'm the oldest.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. And it was so good to see you there. You were so youthful tonight, and you're one of, I don't know if you know this, you're one of 18 countries that were represented, 18 nationalities out there tonight. Of course, you're Japanese, and you work for a very famous company here, which I won't mention, but we all know them, a very famous family, but you're normally in a chopper. Is that right?
It's the seaplane.
The seaplane. So
you...
Okay.
Yeah, landing on the water.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad you landed on the water. But look, how was it to score the goal?
I didn't think I was getting the goal, but it was too much to the front. The ball's coming, just a touch the ball.
Take the opportunity. Look, we want to wish you well for the rest of the season. It's only round 2, and you've obviously done some personal fitness. May I ask, when the COVID thing was on? Oh, sorry, we were in the restrictions and the heavy restrictions. How did you keep fit yourself personally?
Just riding the bike and just running at the field, empty field. It was the only way to.
And not skiing behind the plane. No, just checking.
No,
Right.
it's
Sorry. Yeah. But look, it's always a pleasure to have you. You're always fun, and you always got a smile on your face. And you obviously love football, and you're a
Yeah,
great
I love it.
example of someone who can play football for a long time. And this is at the Premier League level here, so well done. And tonight you were
Thank you very much.
actually a game that was called by the voice of our game, Simon Hill. So when you get home tonight and share it with your family, it'd be great to hear it.
Thank you very much.
Take care, man.
Thank you.
Cheers.
John, it was really good to have 18 nationalities out there tonight. It just shows you about the multicultural destination that is Darwin. You know, how do you put it, our positioning statement, our brand is that diversity is our game here in the NT, and it was proven tonight. And each of them brings their own sort of little culture and colour there. And you saw it in Tiago's goal, you saw it in Tiako's goal just then, and you saw it in the 3 goals in the first part. And I just want to quickly mention someone who didn't score a goal, but he's just relentless, and that's Big Simon. Right? Simon Bell is a DJ, a tradie, a limo driver. He's playing for Hellenic up the front there. He just didn't get his opportunity, but he never gives up.
Exactly. I mean, Simon, you know, what he brings to the team and the team environment, you know, he's a leader. And again, he is obviously a mentor for the young players at the club. I've worked with Simon in the past, and a great club man to have in your dressing room. He always gets the boys geared up, and, you know, he's the one talking on the pitch. So he'll be disappointed tonight they didn't go home with the 3 points. But I know Simon will be thinking, look, it's only, you know, we've got our first game. We've got another, 14 or 15 rounds to go. Let's get it right, and let's start, you know, hitting the training sessions and doing the right things.
I want to thank you for your time tonight. We've got to do it again, and we're looking forward to that. But you've had a long shift. It started with the women's game, and that ended with a 4-1 victory to the Hellenic women over our NT Yappers. And, of course, this one just then was extraordinary. 7 goals right to the end, and just the old adage, it's not over till it's over, and those guys pulled in a great goal. So, John, thank you very much. I want to tell you that your wife texted me to say, look, what's this bit about him not being skillful? I got it. Yes, you were skillful, but you did play for Fury and the Knights.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
that's fine.
That's okay.
No problem.
And
Thank
we did talk about the A-League, so the thing is, we really want to have it back. I know you're desperate like I am to see the guys go around again, and that'll be on shortly. The guys are going to be into training. They'll be in hubs, and we can look forward to some professional football here as only A-League can deliver. It's been a long time since we've seen them. Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls, I don't know if they'll be up at this time of night, but look, it's been an exciting time for football. The world's most popular game, and certainly the most popular game and the most participated game here in Australia. And we're back playing, so football is back. That's the message. And we're the first here in the country to do that, the first to play anywhere in the world with a crowd tonight. We could only have 500, but we made sure we did all the right things by the COVID-19 restrictions and the roadmap to the new normal. And I just want to thank everyone here who worked so hard to make this happen tonight. I hope you enjoyed it at home. I hope your devices, you may be in a car, you might have been travelling, wherever you were, you've taken this chance to just to reignite your love and passion for the game, which we all share. So on behalf of football, behalf of NT football, we want to wish you a good night, a safe trip home, and we'll see you again tomorrow.